Doug and Tony have landed in a cellar where there's lots of advanced equipment and a dead guy who blows himself up. Or they got hold of some really bad drugs. They're called spring hinges and automatic locks. I've used them. Don't overanalyze it. Again, all basic mechanical stuff. Don't overanalyze it.
Hello? Hello, is anybody here? Hello?
Don't have to raise the dead, young man.
Yeah, we know. They're doing it by themselves downstairs. Except she says there is no downstairs and challenges them to show her otherwise.
Wonder who dug it while I was out in the kitchen setting out the biscuit dough to raise.
I included that for one reason, and that's because it's listed as a goof on IMDb. The statement says biscuits use baking powder, which doesn't require raising time like yeast does. And in most cases, that's true. But it is possible to make biscuits with yeast. My wife has done it. And frankly, I like them better. Your mileage may vary.
The door's locked.
Oh, for pity's sake. Ain't been a lock on that door in 40 years.
It's staying open because if you open spring hinges beyond a certain point, they don't have enough leverage to go back. Don't overanalyze it. Okay, I stand corrected. Overanalyze away.
You satisfied now?
Whoever decided to make a purple reptilian alien and then give him a hairy mud mustache should get a bonus.
Hold it. Hold it steady.
I can't, General. It's as though some force field was setting up interference.
A purple alien just froze them with a touch. You suppose they have the capability to interfere with your signals?
We need more power.
Do you have a time fix?
No,
You know where they are?
somewhere along the North Atlantic coast. Could we try a lateral space transfer?
We'll have to double the power output.
All right, do it.
Didn't he just say they need more power with the implication that they don't have it available? Less than 10 seconds later, he can flip a switch and double it. I think we've stopped listening to ourselves altogether. That's the alien ship that got lost at the end of episode 18. I see somebody finally found it. Purple Mustache is talking to his leader because he's not sure how much the two Earthlings know.
Within 1 hour, we shall begin to remove all the oxygen in the air of their planet. They will die.
So it doesn't matter what they know because you have them held helpless upstairs anyway.
Ready to effect transfer. But with that interference, I'm sure we can't move them more than a few feet.
That's all we want. Just break them free of that force that's holding them.
We'll try. Are you ready?
Ready.
Transfer.
But how could a laboratory suddenly turn...
Or not. They peek downstairs and conclude that the purple guy is an android. Wait, android means human-like. There's nothing human-like about that thing. Call it a purpleoid or a reptilioid or a mustachioid. Lots of things, but definitely not an android. They start looking for a way to get out, but the door is locked solid and the window seems unbreakable. They also set off an alarm.
Use oxygen removal test device as means to accomplish.
Acknowledged.
In other words, test the machine on Doug and Tony. They're finding that the room is hermetically sealed and there's a sound of air moving. They also don't feel so good.
Tony, what's standard atmospheric pressure at sea level?
29.98. Why? It's down 4 points.
Tony counts worse than I do. The needle on the right indicates the highest point the air pressure has been since the last time somebody reset it. It's sitting on 29.98, exactly what Tony said. The darker needle on the left is the current pressure. It's pointing at 29.4. You do the rest of the math. It's already starting to make my head hurt.
Let's take this bench. See if we can use it as a battering ram.
I'd go for the door to downstairs since we know that's where the off switch is. But going for the window had a better chance of success.
Come on, we better find help before that android picks us up again.
Pete, do you think they're all right?
We can't trust them. We never saw them before.
Is everybody one of them?
I don't think there's anything left alive in this town except us.
Somehow, Pete and Joni there have managed to elude the aliens, but as far as they know, they're the only ones left. Two more guys come running by, and it's clear they're chasing the first pair. They decide to investigate. Doug and Tony aren't sure what to think yet.
Hey, there's our first break. 2 live people.
Wait a minute.
What's the matter?
First they were running, now they've stopped. Why?
I don't know.
Now they're sure. As we know, the best way to lose someone who's trying to find you is to run down the middle of the street. By the way, there's a force field around the whole town. That's also what's interfering with the time tunnel's ability to do business. But it doesn't pack as much of a punch as those guys thought it did. It doesn't take a whole lot to knock these guys down. More of those purple android things. They've frozen everybody in town, and they can pop in, take someone's form, and go do stuff like this.
How do you tell them from the townspeople?
You don't.
Correct. When you meet someone, you put a good solid one on their KO button and see what happens next. If there's another way, they're not destined to find it.
They must be one of us.
They can't be one of you. There's 2 of them, so oh, never mind. Pete still isn't sure, so they'll keep tailing these guys and try to find out more. I believe they're about to find out more.
General, we can't lock our probe on them.
It's the force field around the town, General. Our normal power isn't strong enough.
Build it up. Use all the reserve if you have to.
Yeah, we'll try.
Okay, we tried that. Now what, General? Once Doug and Tony can convince Pete and Joni that they're not crazy, I'm not sure what made them think that. These 2 guys are asking what year it is and trying to talk to some invisible general in the sky. They learn that it's 1978, so it's not likely much has changed from their own time. There's some dynamite at the general store, so they have to go get it, prep it, and then use it to blow up these guys' oxygen-stealing machinery. Now it's time for class. Open your textbooks to Continuity 101. I think we can assume an alien is going to use her to try and get to them. Which one is the little old lady? About the time the tunnel gang is getting that panel fixed, this happens.
I'm trying to.
It's not the probe.
You know, I'm almost glad the series ended after this, because we don't have to put up with that stupid trope week after week after week. Anybody in the galaxy can just pop into the time tunnel complex at will, and there's nothing anybody can do to stop it. This time, nobody will even know what happened. What is that thing, and how does a random technician happen to have it in his pocket? He hides it somewhere in the machinery, and that's the end of it. It's never mentioned again, and they never find it. They never even look for it because it never occurs to them that such a thing might have happened. What does it do? Best I've been able to tell, nothing. Remember our Continuity 101 class? The little old lady won't be seen again until the very end when she's herself again. The 3 androids outside the general store, by the time our heroes come out, they're gone. And then there's this thing. We went to all that trouble to plant it, and as far as we know, it was just surplus junk the aliens were getting rid of. It doesn't serve an actual function. We ran into this last episode. The tunnel switched one of the aliens, but we never did find out where he went. He was just gone, and nobody even asked afterward. I don't know what was going on in the writers' minds, but it feels like we've given up for the season. We're virtually assured of a second season. We already had a story plan for it. We can coast for these last few episodes. Or maybe word came down that they weren't getting renewed after all, so who cares? Slap something on paper and get it over with. I don't know. I just know here at the end the quality took a nosedive into the ground and never recovered. The tunnels outside communication has been cut off, so maybe that's what the thing did. Also, people are starting to get woozy. The air pressure is dropping inside the room.
We're losing oxygen through the tunnel.
The tunnel has them temporarily linked to the situation on the screen, so while the alien machine is sucking the oxygen out of 1978, it's also sucking it out of this room. Even throwing the main breaker to cut off all power can't break the link. Their only hope is for Doug and Tony to destroy the oxygen-stealing machine in time. But when Doug and Tony start talking to the air trying to communicate with General Kirk, the kids have had enough.
We were talking to somebody who might be able to help us, Pete.
Sure, we know. Help you kill us.
No, we were talking to friends, the time tunnel.
Now, what's that supposed to mean? What kind of a tunnel is that?
You have nothing to lose by trying to explain your time travelers. They've come face to face with space aliens. There's a good chance they'll take you seriously. But we do have one aspect of continuity in this show. These two are terrible at using their words. The kids freak out and run off. Not much the boys can do, so back to prepping the dynamite. Alright, Continuity 101, Chapter 2. I'd like us to pay special attention to how that android did that. It popped in, touched that frozen guy, and now the android is the frozen guy. And we've seen what happens when they're defeated. Where's that guy's body? What happened to him? Is he still alive? Is he somewhere else in town? We don't get to find out. But this happens consistently. The android will pick someone, unfreeze them, and take control of them, and the person, including their actual body, is just gone. Nobody thinks to ask where they went. So far, this episode has a D- for the Continuity 101 course. Now that they've abandoned the heroes of our story, Pete and Joni are faring about like you'd expect. Yeah, it chases her to a spot where she's cornered. All she can do is scream. Fortunately, she screams loud enough to be heard all over town. They don't want to take her with them for the demolition job. I have a feeling they're afraid she'll make too much noise and get them caught. They put her in a storage room and say, "Stay here and don't open the door for anybody but us." She doesn't mention that the aliens got Pete, and they don't bother to ask about him.
You stay right here.
No, I'm afraid. Take me with you.
You'll be safer here.
But what if one of them comes?
Oh, you don't have to worry about that. They won't be out in this gale. They're not built to take this kind of punishment.
No, but humans are, and they take on human bodies, remember? The weather is going insane because they've started pulling the oxygen out of the atmosphere. The ionizing process is creating electrical storms, gale force winds, the whole bit. They already said the process will leave a dead planet. Between Lost in Space and this show, we've learned a lot about the other creatures that inhabit this universe of ours. For one thing, they're all stupid and short-sighted. Taking what you want and leaving a dead planet, whether you're taking protein, stealing oxygen, or growing Satan's food crop, you can only do it once, then you'd better hope there's another planet out there with more. What happens when you run out of accessible worlds? They never seem to think of that. Trade, cooperation, good words to learn and not difficult since everyone in the universe speaks English. For another thing, everybody in the universe can teleport instantly except us, and not one of those swaggering jerks will sit down and teach us. The boys can get back into the hotel through the window they broke. They slip in and start quietly planting bombs and starting timers.
Where are you?
Pete! Where are you?
Joni! Where are you?
Pete! I'm in here, Pete!
She says, I saw them get you. I don't think you're really Pete.
It never touched me. I just stood stock still. You screamed and ran, and I've been looking for you ever since, all over town.
He finally convinces her and she falls into his arms.
What happened to Tony and Doug?
They must be in the hotel by now. They're gonna blow it up.
We can't be too rough on Joan. Once upon a time, she thought she was living on a planet that made sense.
Young man, don't you?
Looks like Tony broke something. It's having an identity crisis. All Tony's doing is luring that thing away so Doug can plant the bomb on the control panel. It's working.
Doug? Doug, over here. Help me, Doug. Help, Doug, help. Doug, don't listen to it. It's not me. Stay where you are.
That wasn't the brightest move that alien has made all day. If he had continued to pose as Pete, frantically searching for Joni and all that, he might have drawn them out, since Joni never told them that the aliens had Pete. All mimicking Tony's voice did was give him away.
Doug, Mr. Phillips, it's me, Pete. I'm over here, Doug. Over here, help me.
Don't I sound sincerely frantic, Doug? Please come help me, Doug. I'm desperate, Doug. This is a recording. Why does he look so surprised? That's the fourth time he's seen that happen. And back to Continuity 101, where's Pete now? He'll just show up once it's all resolved, no explanation.
What's that all about?
I had to be sure.
Tony said, fine, now it's my turn, and belted Doug. They got so wrapped up in their fight, they forgot about the bombs until it was much too late. The great suck has stopped, the sky is returning to normal, and so are the people. That freezing thing they did to people is like a giant shot of Versed. They have no idea any time passed or that anything unusual happened.
Land sakes, I'm on fire.
Well, except maybe that. Doug and Tony disappear and we are done. From here to the end, it's reused footage because they're right back on the Titanic where they started, and that's where we end. There are lots of ideas about why the show did that, but the truth is, nobody who was really in the know is telling. The second season was already partially mapped out. Doug and Tony would get back to the time tunnel, the techs would iron out all the kinks in the system, and our heroes would start going on designated missions to various points in history, kind of like what Voyagers did in the 80s. And then some executive got a bug up his butt. This guy had a pet project that he wanted to get on the air. He tried to strong-arm Irwin Allen into slashing his budget, and Mr. Allen refused. So this dude got the time tunnel canceled and replaced with, are you ready for this? A show about General Custer. He had enough clout to pull it off, and his pet show lasted a whopping 17 episodes. Nobody watched it. For one thing, it ran opposite the third season of Lost in Space, which was still popular enough to sink almost any competitor. In that context, who wants to watch an entire series about a guy you know not only ends up being the loser, but deserves it? Yeah, some of these people have too much power. I mentioned Voyagers, a show from the early 80s with a very similar time travel theme. In fact, the two shows touched on a lot of the same historical topics. I have reviewed that show, all 20 episodes. They're filmed, edited, in the can, and ready to go. I have no place to put them. I uploaded the first one here ages ago. NBC were such about it, I had to take it down or lose my channel. So I posted it on Daily Motion. They got it taken down from there. It's too big for my current size limits on Vimeo, and in the current situation I can't afford to buy more space from them. So here they sit, waiting for a place to host them. That was the time tunnel. I confess I had forgotten how terrible those last few episodes are. Though I was 13, so it's possible I didn't realize how terrible they were. It's also possible my family was traveling somewhere and I missed them. I don't remember, and it doesn't matter because I'm not going to let them ruin the series for me. Irwin Allen said that of all the shows he made, this was his favorite. I can't blame him. It was a new idea. It was smooth, believable, and well written. We had two veteran actors, even though some had doubts about James Darren. He was best known as Moondoggie in the Gidget films, and some questioned whether he could really act. They got their answer. Drooling boys from 12 to 75 could stare at Lee Meriwether, but she was way more than eye candy. Having a woman that high up on the team was a bold move, and keeping her in a lab coat was even bolder. She wasn't there to be looked at. She was there to do awesome things with the world's first working time machine. And we respected her for it, while we drooled. As I said before, the show was at its best when it was working with basic human history. Our boys were trying to broker peace between Custer and Sitting Bull. How amazing is that? We made the most of it too, just as we did with the Alamo, Afghanistan with Kipling, and all the rest. Except for the cliffhangers, there's no real continuity to the overall story, so you can watch the episodes in any order and not lose anything. My recommendation? Get the DVD set and watch your favorite episodes over and over. I have a hunch there's a lot of them, so it won't get monotonous for a long time. Sit back, stay quarantined, and enjoy the show.